Hi guys, thank you guys so much for being here. Today I want to talk to you guys about color, choosing colors for your knitting projects, why it's so tricky, and what we can do about that. So today I want to talk to you guys about color, choosing colors for your knitting projects, and how it's super challenging, even for myself. You know, I'm working with color every day, all day long, but it's still challenging always because there's so many other things wrapped up in the decision-making process of choosing colors, because choosing colors is not objective. It's very emotional and it's very personal, you know? Like a lot of the color choices that you make, they reflect back on how you might feel, or how the colors might make you feel, or how you feel about the colors, or how you think that the colors might make you look, and all sorts of things like that. I can show you specifically an example of what I'm going through right now. So I have this yarn here, this mohair silk DK yarn in the colorway lupine. This is currently my favorite color. I love this color. I literally want to knit everything out of this color. So I have a lot of this yarn right now. I have a sweater's worth of this yarn. And so there's something very precious about a sweater quantity's worth of yarn. I want it to be the perfect sweater. I want it to be something that I'll actually want to wear. And so I don't know how many times I've actually started working with this yarn and stopped, cut it off, ripped it out, and started again. So when I was in Germany a couple of weeks ago, I thought, well, this is the perfect time for me to get, more knitting done on the plane and stuff like that. And so I talked about how I wanted to knit that Claretta shrug, and I was going to wear it inside out. And so I did. I started knitting it, but just maybe it'll block really, really nice and smooth. But I was worried about, catching these threads because, I'm really kind of a clumsy person in general. And so I was worried about catching these threads and ruining my sweater. So I thought this is not necessarily going to work out. And so I stopped knitting that, and I had to find another project to knit. And then I became quite distracted by a lot of things that I'd seen on Instagram about this yoke sweater, the 2-color or 3-color or color work yoke sweater. It's just starting to pop up a lot on my feed for some reason. And so I thought, well, I could use this yarn. It's DK weight. It's very hardy. It's wonderful. It's warm. And I could make myself a yoke sweater. 2-color yoke sweater. Simple, easy peasy, right? So I wanted to work with the color that I already had. But then I'm also looking at, what color do I put with this? What color do I put with this lupine colorway to make that color work? So I could go the easy route and just go with the closest thing to undyed in this case, which is still a cool colorway. This one is called Snowfall. So it's basically like the palest possible gray. So like a cool neutral. So if I paired that with the lupine, of course, you get like a nice, easy, high contrast, 2-color color work yoke sweater. But I didn't want it to be so straightforward and so easy. I wanted to also maybe use something from my stash so I wouldn't have to, use more yarn and things like that. And so I found this skein that was in my stash, and this is a Magician in this Cash Luxe Spark. So it's the sparkly one. It's got a little bit of sparkle to it, and it's the Magician, so it's got sort of a lot of different purples and very pale aquas happening and stuff like that. It's a variegated, sort of modeled colorway. But I thought that it might provide enough contrast with the lupine to give a nice 2-color color work effect. Now I'm wondering if maybe this was not light enough, not enough contrast between the two. And then the other option that I had was to go with this glacier color. And so this glacier is also in the sparkly. This was left over from the Hohi wrap that I made last year. And so this one, with this one, could also provide a lot of contrast. But this one is, I don't know. I just decided not to go with it. So I already started working on the yoke sweater. You can kind of see, I think you can kind of see the color work starting to show up. So you can see where the leaves are starting to happen. Oh, the one I'm knitting here is by Knit Love Wool, I think it is. Jennifer something. I have it here. Knit Love wool. This one is called the I didn't print the cover page, but basically that is what the sweater is going to look like. That's the Arboreal sweater. So yeah, you can start to see the color work coming out a little bit more. And so I might just continue on with this, or I might sort of freak out and decide to rip out the whole thing and start again. That's where even working with color every single day, looking at colors every single day, it still doesn't guarantee that you're going to be always 100% super confident about the colors that you choose to use for your projects. It's still a challenge because I put so much emphasis, maybe I put so much expectation in how this sweater is going to turn out. I put so much expectation into, wanting to wear it, wanting it to be awesome, wanting it to make me feel good and all these kinds of things. And so I expect my color combination to give me that sense of satisfaction, to give me that sense of peace, to give me that sense of enjoyment. So being a hand-dyed knitting yarn company, I see things in two ways. So when you're working with color, I see either that you go out and you work with color that has already been made for you, whether it's been hand dyed or commercially dyed or whatever. It's either color that has already been prepared for you or color that you can go and dye yourself. So if you have any inclination whatsoever about learning how to dye, I would highly encourage you guys to check out a new class that I've just come out with, and it's called Dyeing Complex Color, and it is available on our schoolofsweetgeorgia.com website. So School of SweetGeorgia. So School of SweetGeorgia is a place where I'm teaching people how to dye their own yarn, how to dye their own spinning fiber, how to create the colors that you're looking for specifically, how to mix different colors together to get neutrals, to get complex colors, to get very interesting chromatic colors, things like that. So if you are at all interested in learning how to dye, I highly encourage you guys to go check that out. And this is our launch week right now. And so if you guys click on the link below, there will be a coupon for you guys to get a discount until April 30th. You can get that discount for the School of SweetGeorgia. So going back to what I said, you can either work with color that has been prepared for you, or you can figure out how to dye your own color to get exactly what you're looking for. But for those of us who don't want to do the dyeing, who don't want to get messy, who don't want to do any of those things, that's what we're here for. We make the hand-dyed yarn for you. One of the projects that we've been working on for the past couple of weeks is figuring out a palette of colors to work with Joji Locatelli's new shawl pattern that's come out. So it's called the Fading Point Shawl, and similar to last year's mystery knit-along shawl that she did called the Starting Point, it's a 5-skein shawl pattern. And so I'll show you what I made last year from her Starting Point shawl. This is the Starting Point shawl that I made last year. And so these are the colors that I picked. These are all colors that happened to be in my stash. They were just whatever was available. And I put them together in a way that I thought was fun and playful. And I really enjoyed working on the project. I'm not sure that I've never actually worn it, but I had fun making it. If I had known sort of what the shawl was going to look like at the end, I might have chosen different colors. But, it's just a creative exercise for me, right? It's just for fun. Knitting is just for fun. And so this year for Joji's shawl, it's actually not a mystery knit along. And so she's released what the actual garment is going to look like. And there's some pictures, and it looks like it's a shawl that's got some ombre effect, some gradient sort of effect to it. And so what we've been doing for the past couple of weeks is putting together different colors that we think might work well for Joji's shawl. So I'll show you guys some of the pictures that I've taken of the sets that we've created. So there's one that's mostly pinks. There's one that's a little bit of sort of a grapefruity, apricot-y sort of colorway. There's a run from purples to blues. There's another one that's more mellow and more subdued purples and blues. Yeah, and then we did a couple of color sets where we basically took our most popular splashy colorways and we made sort of an ombre set. So yeah, so there's an ombre set of our windswept colorway. So we just started to make darker versions and lighter and lighter and lighter versions of that. So that would produce kind of like a gradient splashy sort of effect. And similarly here, this is the purple run of that same idea. So this is Anthem, one of our most popular variegated colorways right now. And we just made that into a sort of ombre effect set. So all of these color sets are all available on our website right now. And so I think Joji's pattern is also available on Ravelry now, so you can go get that anytime. I'll put the link down below for you as well. But we were also, working with a couple of other colors that were a little bit more muted, more soft. I know that her sample shawl is very, very soft and delicate. And so some of the softer colors that we have, this is Candy Floss. This is still quite a clear, but very, very, very pale pink. This one is Lady Gray, which is a very muted gray pink. Lilac, which is kind of a muted gray purple. And London Fog, which feels more gray. But also is a little bit purple. They're all very subtle, and they're very subtly different, but they're still different. And so, yeah, we have them all because they're all still very different. But you could even do a run with these colors together and things like that. So yeah, choosing colors is absolutely tricky and challenging. And like I said, we can either use colors that have already been made for us, or we can go and make our own colors if we're learning how to dye and things like that. So if you're interested in working on Joji's shawl, you could work from one of the sets that we've prepared already, or you can absolutely hand pick a la carte, individual colors that you want to go together. And you can absolutely do that anytime. One of the things that we have created to help people with that is a video course called the Color Play. And basically that is available on School of SweetGeorgia. And that's a free class for anybody who wants to learn how to put colors together and experiment and play with different colors to see how colors might go together and what goes with what, So yes, the Color Play course is there for you guys if you ever need some help or some guidance with picking colors or choosing colors that might go together. It's just a way to experiment and try different things and learn from the color decisions that you make. So color as a topic is something that I want to explore even more and more in the coming months. And there's a lot of things that I want to talk about with color and choosing colors and things like that. And specifically even working with multiple colors for color work projects and choosing color for color work projects. Lots and lots of things to talk about there for sure. But I have just finished wrapping up the production on the Dyeing Complex Color course. And so that, I'm so excited, is finally out. And so I want to take a minute to tell you guys a little bit more about that because I've been working on it for about 6 months now. So the School of SweetGeorgia was something that I started as an idea last May. So May 2017, I put it out in the world. I said, I have been wanting to make educational videos about craft and about color for many, many years now. And now I'm finally going to go ahead and start doing it. And so there was an initial group of patrons from our Patreon campaign that have followed and have supported and encouraged the development of all of this course content for the past almost year now. And so they really, really, really pushed and encouraged me to launch the first course, which came out in October 2017. And that was called Dyeing Intentional Color. And that course is all about dyeing solid shade color. So how to make, like a single color in a dye pot, that sort of idea. And then what I wanted to do is expand on that fundamental foundation, right? Because a lot of the information in that is about, doing your dye calculations, figuring out your formula, how to mix dye stock, just very, very basic things to get started. I teach this other class in real life called Dyeing Complex Colors or creating complex colorways. And it was all about using things like, low water immersion dyeing to create splashy colors like this and like this, layered colors. So those kinds of colors I didn't teach in that first dye class. So for the past 6 months, I have been working on writing and filming and editing, and Leah's been coming to help, and we've been shooting at the dye studio at SweetGeorgia, and filming this class so that way we can teach things like, how to create these kinds of colorways, and how to create colors that are more textured and layered and glazed and, just more interest, more things happening. Also showing people how to hand paint their own spinning fiber, hand paint your own yarns to make multicolored yarns that have distinct sections of color. And then also, like I talked about in the previous class, about learning how to dye your own sock blanks. So this is actually a prototype sock blank that we dyed. And then actually I knit the other prototype of this one into the shawl that I'm wearing right now. So this is what became this. And yeah, so there's just a lot of different ways to apply dye that are different than putting them in a pot and doing an immersion dye bath and then making a solid color. So there is an absolute world of things that you can do to create all different kinds of colors. And so I go in depth into that in this course. And I think I put together 8 modules, and it's about 5 hours worth of video and 47 individual videos. So it's a lot of content. It's like very, very in depth. Even when I teach this class called Creating Complex Colorways, it's a 3-hour class in real life, and people come and in 3 hours they go home with 3 skeins. But I have to cram so much content into that very, very short amount of time, because I need to give people time to absorb the instruction that I'm sort of trying to give, and then also have to give people time to do the physical hands-on making of those skeins. And so in that real life class, we do depth of shade sort of exercise. So everybody dyes one immersion dyed mini skein, or they dye a batch of mini skeins. And so then those mini skeins get distributed to all the other students. So at the end of the day, everybody goes home with a full set of like 5 or 6 mini skeins that are dyed in a depth of shade progression, or like an ombre. So it's like a mini skein set of ombre mini skeins. And then they also go home with, like a low water immersion dyed skein and maybe a layered skein. But that's a lot of information to fit in that very, very short amount of time. So I felt really good about making all of that content and putting it all into a dyeing class like this, just a very extensive, in-depth video-based dyeing class, because then I can go into more depth. I can talk more about, each of these techniques and different things to look out for, and just all sorts of things that I wish that I could share in a small live class, but that it's very difficult to do because there's like 15 people to manage, and hot pots and hot water and potential for people slipping and all these kinds of things. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to be able to offer this dyeing class finally. And so now that these 2 big milestone dyeing classes have been completed, now I want to turn my attention more to focusing a little bit on the actual using of the colors that have been dyed, using hand-dyed colorways, combining different hand-dyed colorways for color work projects, for weaving projects, for knitting projects, all of these kinds of things. So there's a lot of topics that I want to cover there, but I don't want to do them as a big, long, massive course, because it's a lot. Like, I don't want to just come up with content once every 6 months. I would prefer to be able to come up with content, once every month, and have new things coming out all the time. So that is what I'd like to focus on next. But right now, this is what is happening. So this is my update for this week. You have seen my knitting project that I'm currently working on. You have seen the project that I've been working on for the past couple of weeks. And you've seen the project that I've been working on for literally the past 6 months of my life. And so, yeah, I think that's a pretty full update. So what I would like to do is I'd like to offer one free spot in the new dyeing class to somebody who's never participated in the School of SweetGeorgia before. And so if you are at all interested in learning how to dye, but you've never actually participated in any of our School of SweetGeorgia events or the Patreon or anything like that, I'd like to offer one spot in our school for this class. And so if you'd like to enter that particular giveaway, you can enter your information in the link below, and I will do a draw, let's say in 2 weeks, and I'll email you directly if you are the winner. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys are enjoying this content. It's really interesting for me to be able to try to put all these things together and try to share something that might be valuable to you in your making life and your creating life. And, knitting takes up a lot of time and it takes up a lot of energy. And I know even for myself, I want to knit and I want to enjoy the things that I've made from that time and from my hands. And so a lot of the decisions that you're making while you're knitting have to do with choosing colors and choosing yarns and things like that. And if there's any way that I can make that easier for you or more helpful for you, I would love to do that. In a couple of weeks, what I'd like to do is I'd like to do a Q&A show. And so yes, if you would like to participate in the Q&A and submit a question for me to answer for the next couple of weeks, that would be fantastic. So you can just leave your question in the comments below, and I'll go through and read through all the comments and pick out some questions that I can answer in an upcoming Q&A episode for that. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope that you guys like this content. If you like it, please hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more, please hit subscribe. And I'm here every Friday with new videos and things like that. So that's it for this week. And I guess I will see you guys in the next one. All right, bye for now.